Yo, what's going on, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earth Mac, the Mad Scientist. Welcome back to the Orange Phoenix Media Channel. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Saturday Morning Comics. I hope you guys had an awesome week. Man, I know I did, man. I came to a little bit of epiphany. And so somebody brought this to my attention, not directly, but one of the friends of the channel, and he actually has his own channel, Blurred Without Fear. He put up a very valid point, right? He put up a very valid point, and one of the valid points is, along with myself and other comic book content creators, when it comes down to independent comics, when it comes down to talking about those said comics and putting them in our weekly content, the stuff that we put out during the week, it doesn't get that much traction as DC and Marvel, not as much as the big two, right? So, but why is that though? Why is that? It's a good bit of great shows like series or movies or whatever that are based off of independent comics, and some people just do not realize it, right? Like some people just don't realize it. For instance, Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a comic book. That's where it came from. That is claim to fame. Invincible, comic book. The Boys, comic book. You know, so and chances are 9 times out of 10, the stories are better in the comic than they were on the series. Not saying the series was bad, but still, yeah, it's out there. And because Walking Dead was selling so much, it's like, you know what? Let's make a series about that. You know, let's make a series about that. And it's public knowledge about Bitterroot. Like, you know, Bitterroot is an independent comic. And by a good friend of the channel, Sanford Green. And, you know, there's been rumors circling, and you can Google it, that, you know, there will be like a series or a movie based off of that. So because of how much it's been selling, you know what I mean? So if you like these series, because I know some people like, well, you know what? Won't you just make a series or movie about it, and that'll bring people to like the books or whatever? But that's not exactly how it works. That's not how it works. Like, it has to work the opposite way. The book itself has to sell and bring attention to the masses in order for a series of movies to get picked up. That's typically how it goes. There's another series or movie, because I don't have the details right in front of me, called The Beauty, right? The Beauty is a comic book. You know what I'm saying? And some people, like, especially on Threads, because on Threads, I'll be around like-minded individuals and, you know, for comic book content, anime, and stuff like that. They say, like, listen, you better off reading the comic book, dog. Like that's what they're saying. And right now, there's an independent comic that I'm reading, and I put a bookmark in it. East of West. I feel like East of West by Jonathan Hickman could be a phenomenal series. A phenomenal series. Like, East of West would be a phenomenal series, and a good bit of series for Stephanie Williams and Sanford Green. But I'm just saying, if you really like independent comics, you got to show love to independent comics. And whenever myself or Blurred or you know, if anybody else like put out like independent comic book content, you got to show that love to it, man. Like, it got to be spread to the masses in order for the word to actually get out. Because really, let's keep it a beat. Let's keep it a beat. Last year, we talked about like some of the best-selling comics of 2025, right? Well, last week or so, I talked about the best-selling comics 2025, and the majority of those were DC and independent comics. One independent comic was Battle Beast, right? So if you look at what DC has been doing, because DC has been around for a long time, and Marvel has been around for a long time, there are some independent comics out there that are killing it, man, story-wise. Are killing it. Like, if I don't get opportunity over here, I'm going to just create my own thing over here, and that gains attention over here, and I can come over here and do some work, and you know, that's kind of like how it works. But still, yeah, you got to show love to independent comics. So with that, I added a segment that highlights, you know, 1 or 2 independent comics for the week for you guys to go out there and check out and read. And, you know, yes, I'm going to talk about it. Not necessarily going to spoil it for you, but definitely going to be talking about it and tell you where to go and read this and how much interesting it is. But either way it goes, today we are talking about, now main event, we're going to talk about X-Men. And I know that a little bit contradictory or whatever the case may be, but yes, there will be a segment talking about independent comics, and I want y'all to tune in for that. So I asked Threads, I said to my comic book readers out there, you know, what has been some of y'all favorite X-Men storylines, right? And it gained a lot of traction, like more than I thought it would. To be 100% on it, like, it got over like 2,000 views because I was just asking questions, and you know, people was just chiming in, boom, 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 just letting it out. So, but before I jump into that, I went to comicbook.com, and they talked about some of the best storylines of the X-Men titles, and I'm gonna see if y'all actually agree with this. Okay, we'll see if y'all actually agree with this. So, but hold on. Before I do that, before I do that, right? I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I got to talk to y'all about some of my comic book haul for this week. I went to my LCS this week for the first time this year. Yes, I did. Man. And I follow suit. And that goes back to what I was saying about independent comics, right? So check this out. So one of the books I got was Astrobots #2. Astrobots #2. If you look at the artwork of this right here, if you are a fan of 80s, 90s, like animation style of anime, then this book gives you this vibe. Now, I'm going to give you a review of this. I wouldn't say next week. I would probably give it to you like the weekend after next, but Astrobots from Massive Publishing. This is one of the books that I got from my local LCS. But yes, if you are a fan of 80s, 90s anime style, then this book is for you. And it is brilliantly drawn. So it's doing some real good work. Massive Publishing. The other one is from Mad Cave Studios and Frank Thierry. And Whatever Happened to Crimson Justice #1. This is what I got from Mad Cave here. And I feel like I will be talking about this. Next weekend. As far as comics to cover for the week, independent comics. So yes. Now, I did jump into the main two, right? I did get X-Men #23, Shadows of Tomorrow, the epilogue for Age of Revelation. You know, I have my... We're going to talk about that. But yes, X-Men #23, Shadows of Tomorrow. And actually, most recently, I did put out a video, the first video of the year, recorded video of the year. And it is Wolverine issue #14 featuring Silver Sable. If you have not seen that video I posted, go out there and check that out, right? It's out here this week, so go ahead and check out the Wolverine coverage of this right here with Silver Sable. Now, going back to the indies, y'all. We got Final Boss, right? I read issue #1. Man, this thing is good. Now, I will tell you, it is a fighting comic. For sure. Now you can see this artwork here. Really, really good. If you are a fan of Solo Leveling, then this may be one of the ones for you. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like magical or anything like that, but this person gains abilities, like physical abilities, like fighting abilities, like, you know, dexterity and strength and stuff like that. So, really good book from Image Comics. And Tyler Kirkham, I got to reach out to him and see he want to be on the show so he can talk about this Final Boss. But yes, go out there to your LCS and pick this up. Now, for a good friend of the channel, Stephanie Williams, y'all. Roots of Madness, man. I like the feel of this book right here. Roots of Madness, issue #2. And issue #1 will be coming in the mail on Monday, okay? On Monday. And I will be talking about this as one of the independent comics for the week. Not this week, but in the coming weeks, because I got to get a deep dive in this. So yes, Roots of Madness, written by Stephanie Williams, and Letizia Cananisi is illustrated and colored by Alessandro Santoro, and world design lettered, and it's from Ignition Press. So, how to get this? So, all you got to do is go to ignitionpress.com. You can go to Stephanie Williams' website. There's several links from it, because I went to my LCS and I could not find issue #1 anywhere. So people have been buying this, okay? But I was lucky enough to get issue #2, and it was the last issue #2, and I was able to get my hands on this physically. So I got issue #1 on the way. But if you just so happen not to see Roots of Madness in your LCS, you can always order it online and get mailed out to you. So put it out there. So I will say though, next weekend I will be covering this though, and this one is called from Mad Cave, Pop Kill. All right, Pop Kill. So imagine you have Pepsi and Coke, and they are literally right across the street from each other, and the owners or the CEOs of these said companies, or the creators of these said companies, are at odds with each other, and they are brothers. And in order to mess with the other brother, what you do is you hire assassins, saboteurs, and all kinds of stuff to sabotage the other's business so you can get ahead monetarily. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you this is really good. This is off the charts. This is off the wall good. Okay, off the wall good. I wouldn't think I would like a book like this, but I do. I really do like a book like this. So I can't wait to actually cover this, and this will be covered next week. This will be talked about next week. So Pop Kill. So you can find this on Global Comics, by the way. You can find this on Global Comics. And I've been having a blast like reading this. Blast reading this. So that is my haul for this week. Now, we got to jump back into some X-Men, right? Got to get back into some X-Men. And according to comicbook.com, like, these are 10 of the best stories. Now, there's a little bit of a difference. Okay, there's a little bit of a difference because we're going to see in comicbook.com those that are talking about versus the people that I asked on Threads, because I tend to trust the people on Threads a little bit more because like-minded individuals. But it says that number 10 is Inferno. It says the Krakoa era started with the blast, but Hickman's X-Men wasn't great. It would be easy to say that he wrote amazing X-Men events and good X-Men stories, but Ten of Swords puts a lot of that, although you could probably blame how mid that one was on the co-creator Tini Howard and other X-writers. The Hickman written parts are a few parts of the story worth reading. However, Hickman's last story on Krakoa is outstanding. Inferno by Hickman, Valerio CD, RB Silva, and Stefano Caselli. See, the writer put the kibosh on his time on the Mutant Island with a 4-issue story full of intrigue, big moments, a mind-bending twist, and a final battle issue that would knock your socks off. Inferno is way better than the reputation of the latter-day Krakoa books has you to believe. I will say, when the Krakoa era first started, man, that thing was kicking. That thing was cooking off the charts. I just recently reread House of X, Powers of X, man. Love that book through and through from cover to cover. And yes, there's been some criticisms for the later issues of the Krakoan age, especially the end of Krakoa, because it was rushed, right? It was rushed. It was a notion of it being rushed. And yes, there is at times points of the new storyline, what's going on with X-Men, as far as, Shadows of Tomorrow just started, but from the ashes, that there's been some like reheated food, when it comes to the Krakoan age. Like, if you stepping away from Krakoa, step away from Krakoa, but it's like you got to go back to the well to jump back into stuff. It's almost to the point where you should have left well enough alone and just add new writers to the Krakoan age and just kept it moving. You could have just done that, but whatever with that. Either way it goes, we go back to Inferno. Now, this should look familiar with Madeline Pryor. If you watch X-Men 97, like, Inferno, parts of it was in X-Men 97. Now, I do agree. Inferno was really, really good. And it's like, yes, I did this on purpose. Chris Claremont is the most revolutionary X-Men writer, and having created everything that everyone loves about the team. Now, his first run with the Men and Women of X lasted 17 years and gave us numerous best of all time stories. And Claremont helped change the way the crossover event worked, and his final massive summer crossover is easily his best. Sorry, Mutant Massacre and The Fall of the Mutants. I don't know about that. That's kind of up there. But either way, although both are good, Inferno brought the Madeline Pryor plot to a head as Cyclops' spurned wife teamed with the demons of Limbo for revenge against everyone. And now this story is massive, combining all of the 80s X teams with heroes from the Marvel's New York City, and it will knock your socks off. Now, this is the end of Pete Claremont, and it's amazing. Now, I will say this, man. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I'm going to just keep it a B with you. And hold on, let me zoom in right quick. Chris Claremont's X-Men. This is his X-Men, okay? This is not Stan Lee's X-Men. You feel me? Like, when X-Men first came out, like in the 60s, it did not do well. All right, it was trash. It did not do well. The 60s X-Men did not do well at all. Don't let anybody fool you. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you that that thing was heat. It was not. Now, as far as worth, like X-Men #1, if you got that comic and CGC and all that other stuff and you selling it, yeah, that's worth money. But that doesn't mean that the book itself was good. It wasn't. It was good when Chris Claremont took over, and the amount of stories that he was putting out there for X-Men, that was the claim to fame right there. That what brought people over. Then you transition that over to the 90s with Jim Lee, Fabian Nicieza, and what he was doing with Cable and all that. Man, it was like story after story after story after story after story. Like good. Let's keep on booking. Like just keep on going. Chris Claremont put X-Men on the map. He saved X-Men. And I stand on that. 10 toes down on that. Chris Claremont saved X-Men. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the amazing titles that we have like today. Like we really would not have that. Like I just had to say that. Just had to say that. But back to it. So Planet X, which was from New X-Men. Now these are people out there. There are people out there who will try to convince you that Planet X is bad because it makes Magneto into an evil terrorist. But these people don't understand the subtext of Grant Morrison's New X-Men or Magneto as a character, and this story blew New X-Men wide open, as most of the team's problems were revealed to be orchestrated by their greatest enemy. They are outclassed, outsmarted, overwhelmed, yet they never give up, and Morrison and artist Phil Jimenez, an amazing team, whenever they work together, give readers a twisting, turning narrative that will take them to some amazing places. Now, I was reading the book monthly all those years ago, and it was quite a ride. And I even know how Morrison was originally going to kill Spoiler because Phil Jimenez told me at the signing years ago. So, I'm going to be honest with you. To be total transparent, as far as New X-Men is concerned, I wasn't rocking with it. I wasn't reading it. I really wasn't reading it. This was one of those time periods where, and I think everybody goes through this, where they stepped away from reading comic books because other things brought their attention, like anime and all this other stuff. So that's where I kind of fell off when it came down to X-Men. And I'm a visual person. If the art don't appeal to me in a certain way, then chances are I'm not going to pick up the book. So the art got to catch me first before I read the book. And that's just what it is. I'm just such a visual person. But this was during the gap where I wasn't reading like comic books at all. Not just X-Men, but just in general. Now, will I go back and read Grant Morrison's New X-Men? Yeah, I'll go back and read that. I'll go back and read it all day. I'll go back and read it all day. Now, to pretend like Magneto was an evil terrorist, yes, he was. You know what I'm saying? And that goes to the notion of there was a correlation between like Magneto being Malcolm X and Charles Xavier being Martin Luther King, or allegory of those two in historical figures. That is false. Okay, that is false. Like, I know about the VHS tape we got for Pizza Hut that had Stan Lee, Fabian Nicieza, Scott Lobdell, and I forgot the other cat, but they was talking about it, and Stan Lee didn't say that. Stan Lee didn't say that. That was Scott Lobdell that said that. And if you pay close attention, Stan Lee quickly changed the subject. Like, that was not the deal. And also, to people, Magneto wasn't always Jewish. He was a run-of-the-mill villain when he was first introduced. Like, he was genocidal. Like that was Magneto. Okay, up until like later on, like with Chris Claremont or whatever, when it like God loves, man kills, right? Like when it came down to that, when it talked to discrimination and oppression or whatever the case may be, yeah, you can draw a similarity, you know what I'm saying? But that wasn't the case. It never was the case. Never was the case with that. The next one up is the Brood saga. Now, I did read the Brood, and yes, it is a masterpiece of sci-fi horror. The story retained Claremont with artist Dave Cockrum, and the two of them made magic. Now, he introduced the Brood, probably because Claremont had watched Alien again or something. Now, in a story that saw the X-Men face off against a foe unlike any they had ever seen before, the Brood saga is flawless piece of superhero perfection with Cockrum's amazing pencils, really bringing the whole thing to life. Now, when most of the people think of Claremont's greatest artistic partners, they usually jump right to John Byrne, but the Brood Saga proves just how amazing Cockrum Claremont were together. Now, yeah, if you look at the Brood Saga, you would definitely pick up like Alien vibes. Yes, he was a fan of Alien. And also, if you are one of those old heads that had a Sega Genesis, the Brood was in X-Men 2 Clone Wars. It was in X-Men 2 Clone Wars. So, but the Brood is, yes, sci-fi horror, and you can easily read that. I have vague memories about it, and wasn't one of my favorite stories, but at the same time, it was a really good story too. It was actually a really good story. The story wasn't trash by any stretch of the imagination, okay? So, yeah, if you haven't read the Brood Saga, go ahead and read that. The next one is House of X, Powers of X. Now, what's funny about it, I just recently reread it. Like, within the past 24, 48 hours, reread it because, A, it's free on Comixology Unlimited, too. So, if you want to go ahead and read that. But anyway, it said X-Men fans love the Krakoa era, even with the mediocre ending. See what I mean? The mediocre ending. They have, from the start, House of X, Powers of X by Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, and R.B. Silver kicked off this bold new era by tearing down everything that defined the team and replacing it. The mutants moved to the island of Krakoa, creating their own nation, having to deal with all the problems of nation building, all while dealing with the most powerful anti-mutant force ever. Now, as all of that is going on, the biggest secret in X-Men history is revealed. House of X, Powers of X is a wild ride. The two books, there are one taking readers through time and the multiverse to tell a story unlike anything you ever read. I got to zoom in right quick. Absolutely positively correct. Absolutely positively correct. Like, now that it's fresh in my mind for rereading, like Moira McTaggart, like she had like 10 plus lives. She's a mutant. She has the ability to, when she dies, she comes back retaining information from her previous life, and she does things differently. And one of the things that she was trying to do differently is see who wins this. Like, is there a happy ending for Charles Xavier and his mutants, or Magneto and his mutants? Like, she did like everything. She fell in love with Charles Xavier. We know that storyline. We know that. You know, she aligned herself with Magneto. She aligned herself with Apocalypse, and still came out to a similar result until she had this idea. And this idea, she presents this to Charles Xavier first, and then they both go to Magneto and present it to him. Then they go to Mr. Sinister. Then they go to Apocalypse and how things supposed to go, and look at, like, from the foundation side of it, of building Krakoa as an island for mutants, or being a sovereign state, right? Being a totally separate, like, country, basically, with its own set of rules, its own set of regulations, and its own set of laws, or whatever the case may be, separate from the human population, or separate from the United States, or whatever the case may be. Also doing business with the U.S. That right there led to some phenomenal storytelling. And also with Orchis, like, waiting in the wings, because Orchis really want to take out the mutants, like, in totality. You know what I'm saying? So to have the island of Krakoa, the dream was really realized. You know what I mean? So everybody had their own set of happiness. Everybody had their own, like, divisions. And you had a council. You had a round table of people deciding on certain laws to be passed. Even though different ideologies was at that table, just by looking at a table, there were people that were at, it was equal in ways. It was equal in ways where they was keeping tabs on each other. And it's almost like the three branches of government, how it's supposed to be run. And, you know, everybody makes sure the person don't overstep their bounds. And the first punishment of all punishments, the first punishment in House of X and Powers of X is Sabretooth. That was the first punishment. It's like, this dude is evil incarnate. You know what I'm saying? But he basically violated a rule where he killed a human being. And everybody at the council, like from Apocalypse to Mr. Sinister to Magneto to Mystique to Emma Frost, Professor Xavier, Storm, everybody Like, yeah, you getting punished. You getting exiled. So they exiled him, but they don't put him back on to the States. They didn't do that. They just exiled him forever within Krakoa because Krakoa is a living entity. But either way it goes, House of X, Powers of X is really, really, really good. You got to check that out if you haven't read it. The next one is Riot at Xavier's. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of the artwork here, but either way it goes, it says New X-Men is the team's 21st century pinnacle, telling some of the best X-Men stories ever. In the middle of the run, has some excellent stories. Now, that's not saying that stories weren't good, but many of which are bogged by rushed art. Igor Corday was forced to finish issues in days because of blown deadlines from backup artist Ethan Van Sciver and regular artist Frank Quitely. So if there's any kind of critique on the artwork, there you go. However, Riot at Xavier's put an end to that era of the book. Now, the story introduced readers to Quentin Quire, the powerful telepath who finds out he's adopted, shattering his world. Quentin decides to embrace chaos, creating the Omega Gang and starting a riot on the school's first open house. This is a wild story of youthful rebellion from Morrison and Frank Quitely, taking readers on an insane ride that sets up the pieces of inevitable end to Morrison's run. Now, I also recommend Murder at the Mansion and Assault on Weapons Plus, the next two story arcs. Yeah, Quentin Quire was introduced here in New X-Men. And yes, he is on the adjective list X-Men of Shadows of Tomorrow and From the Ashes. So he is on that team. And yes, there's a lot of growth between Grant Morrison's run to Krakoa era up till now. Yes, there's been growth. Juggernaut 2. Days of the Future Past, one of my favorite stories. Now, Days of the Future Past changed comics forever. It said the 2-issue story from Claremont and Byrne made a dystopian future popular, unleashing a trope on the X-Men in particular and comics in general that we will still see to this day. In a future where humanity has nearly destroyed the mutant race. Now, the X-Men enact two-pronged plan to defeat the world's Sentinel overlords, sending Kate Pryde back in time while the team goes after the Master Mold, leading the mutant hunting robots. Now, this story is amazing. A slice of superhero comic profession that we don't see often. Now, Claremont and Byrne were sensational together. And also, to piggyback that, Days of Future Past is on X-Men the Animated Series. Now, it's condensed, yes, but X-Men Animated Series, some people were introduced to Days of Future Past through that series, right? But Chris Claremont's Days of Future Past, definitely go out there and read that, man. Definitely go out and read that. This looks very, very familiar because this was in the background in X-Men the Animated Series. Now, I mean, not with Wolverine with the white hair and all that, but you know what I mean. The other one is E for Extension. This is number 3. And this is another Frank Quitely, Frank Morrison's run. And this is the one I want to jump to right here. God Loves, Man Kills. Now, I read this earlier this week. Reread it, actually. And let me tell you, this should be number 2. This should be number 2. This should not be number 2. I wholeheartedly disagree with this. God Love Man Kills, using the team's central metaphor to tell a story that the eerily prescient Reverend Stryker and his purifiers decide that mutants are a spawn of Satan and begin a quest to wipe them all out when mutant children are found dead. Now, do you remember X-Men 2, X2 United that introduced Nightcrawler the movie? This is where this came from. God Loves, Man Kills. Like with Stryker. But Stryker wasn't like this pastor or whatever the case may be. But if you read God Love, Man Kills, there are some similarities between the movie and the comics. But the comics is a way deeper dive. And it's also a way better story. And also, it's probably why a lot of people held X2 United is the best X-Men like movie out of all the movies that were released up until when the MCU do X-Men. But either way it goes. Still yet, God Love Man Kills, like probably to me probably the best story. And I'm gonna just keep that a B. And you know, like artwork wise, yeah, it took place in like late 80s or whatever the case may be. I'm a big fan of Jim Lee. So I love his artwork and I gravitate towards that more. But as far as like storytelling and telling stuff, like it, you know, put oppression out there in the forefront, and especially how it started off, right? Especially the infamous Kitty Pryde panel, because she put that out there too. So, you know what I mean? She put that out there too. But God Loves Man Kills, man. Sadly, this thing aged perfectly. Sadly, this aged perfectly. And I'm gonna leave that at that. Sadly, it aged perfectly. But number one though is the Dark Phoenix saga. Now I will say Dark Phoenix was also featured in X-Men the animated series. It was a long drawn out thing. It took out, I want to say it maybe was season 2 or 3 of the animated series. It took out a great majority of the season. But the Dark Phoenix saga is unequivocally brilliant. A singular achievement that I've always felt is the greatest Marvel story ever. Claremont and Byrne, another Claremont title, close out the Phoenix plotline as a battle with the Hellfire's Club. Inner Circle awakens the darkness in Jean Grey's soul. What follows in an emotional roller coaster as the team watches someone they love to fall to darkness and the journey they will go on to save their friend. The Dark Phoenix saga isn't a comic with amazing action. Isn't just a comic with amazing action and spine-tingling suspense, but a story with the perfect emotional core that would touch your heart. It's the definition of brilliant. And in my opinion, no story published by Marvel in years since has ever touched it, let alone topped it. Whew, that's a tough call, man. That's a tough call. I mean, now granted, yeah, this is one of the best stories that's out there. I'm gonna just keep it a beat. That's one of the best stories that's out there. But I don't know if it overtakes God Loves Man Kills. I don't know. I really don't know. Like the Dark Phoenix saga is definitely out there. You know what? Maybe I should reread it. Maybe I should reread it and see if it overtakes God Loves Man Kills. We got to see about that. We got to see about it. We definitely got to see about that, man. Because I don't know. But let's see what our Threads friends say, right? So C Capone said, I don't know if it's going to be an official storyline name, but it was when Jim Lee took over the art duties chronicling Wolverine's long ride to recovery after getting the stuffing whipped out of him. Following the collapse of the X-Men, stupidity dragged out Australian outback exile. The new Psylocke, the Genosha attack, the return of Storm. It was a revolutionary new look and the art action style no one has seen. Yeah, Jim Lee's run, of X-Men, and I can tell you honestly, I had a whole slew of Wolverine titles from the 90s, right? And like his journey from before Adamantium, during Adamantium, after the Adamantium was ripped out of him, the whole Genosha deal with Magneto, the whole island deal where Professor Xavier wiped Magneto's mind clean when he ripped Adamantium out of Wolverine, which you saw that in X-Men 97. It didn't do it to completion, but it was getting there. So, but either way it goes, it says, reading Chris Claremont's decade-plus long original run has been great. Now, getting towards the end, I'm in post-Outback early 1990. Now, Astonishing X-Men and the original Ultimate X-Men will always be some of my favorites, and Peter David's X-Factor from like 2005 onward is a blast as well. Now, some of them went into X-Factor and X-Force. Now, but the greatest X-Men story ever for me has to be Age of Apocalypse. So going into like some of the failures, right? The most recent failure is Age of Revelation, right? It is honestly reheated food. It is almost like a sequel to Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse was really good to a point that it has an omnibus, like the whole Age of Apocalypse storyline, like all the X-Men titles or Weapon X titles, or whatever the case may be. It really was a good story. Prior to that, it was Legion's Quest. And this was when I was like in and out of X-Men, but I did read Legion's Quest and, the story behind that and what led up to Age of Apocalypse and why people were living in this time. And Age of Apocalypse was really good, man. It was really good. Really well thought out story. And matter of fact, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can pull up something with Age of Apocalypse. If you haven't read Age of Apocalypse, I would highly encourage you guys to actually read that. Really, really, really good stuff. And let's see. I think I pull it up. Just remind me, ladies and gentlemen. Just remind me. So, anyway, back to it. Comic Book Bully says Dark Phoenix Saga. We talk about that. Days of Future Past. The Magneto Protocol. Yeah, that was actually pretty good. That was actually pretty good. The House of X, Powers of X, Age of Apocalypse. That notice that Age of Apocalypse will be on here like crazy. Sins of Sinister. Whew. Let me tell you something. Mr. Sinister is diabolical. Diabolical, man. Like this. I don't want to be in the same area as Mr. Sinister. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even look. Apocalypse, cool. Magneto, cool. Magneto, cool. Mr. Sinister, nah. Beast, no. Like, the Krakoa Beast, the Savage Beast, like that one, I don't want to be a part of that one either. I don't want to. Nah. Giant sized X-Men. That was a good one. God Loves Man Kills and Gifted. The Demon Bear New Mutant story, but I'm still counting on it. The other one is Executioner's Song. Yes. Executioner's Song, which was featured in X-Men 97. And Executioner's Song is like a Jim Lee's run. Right? And I think that was one of the first stories out there. Outside, I think after Magneto, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, Death of X and Slept On, Knocked My Socks Off, Extinction Agenda, Mutant Massacre is also part of that, and Dark Phoenix is part of that. Calamity JRN, his quick top 10. Proteus, Unstoppable or Astonishing X-Men, To Have and Have Not, Ultimate X-Men, Mutant Massacre, the 80s crossover, Gifted, Astonishing X-Men, E is for Extinction, Age of Apocalypse, the 90s crossover event, God Loves, Man Kills, Uncanny X-Men, I said Ultimate X-Men, but Uncanny X-Men, Days of Future Past, and Dark Phoenix Saga is number 1. Okay, that's another one that sits up there at number 1. So, the Mutant Massacre, The Fall of the Mutants of Inferno by Mark Hartman. He said that Keith Mace, X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold are some of my current favorites. Hey, listen, that is what I want. I want that omnibus. X-Men Blue and Gold, I need that in my possession. I need that book. I have a mighty need for that book, that omnibus, man. And it will cost you. It'll cost you, but it's worth it. X-Men Blue and Gold. You gotta have that, man. I need that. I need that in my possession. So Marcus Barry say Inferno, and I want to say it's the Inferno from Madeline Pryor. Extinction Agenda, the X-Men issues of Acts of Vengeance and Mutant Genesis. And Willie Hoodward says, my first X-Men comic, X-Men number 33, which is my favorite number, by the way, which took place as a prequel before Gambit was an X-Man, and he had to seduce this woman for this jewel and ended up falling for her, while also battling Sabretooth. It was a nice, intimate story. Also, Execution Song was very good. Man, this is getting into the weeds. And so, Mark's like, yo, I'm a little late to the party, but has no one mentioned Beyond Good and Evil? Oh, Beyond Good. No one's mentioned Beyond Good and Evil. Fun fact for Beyond Good and Evil. That was supposed to be the series finale of X-Men, the animated series. That was supposed to be it. If you looked at that 4-part series of X-Men, the animated series, and how everything came together and how that brought a lot of people together, that was supposed to be it. And that was supposed to be how it's supposed to end. Some of the original X-Men was going to leave the X-Men, and Bishop and Archangel and Psylocke and Shard was supposed to be the 4 to be part of the new X-Men team. That's how it's supposed to go in. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes. But I do know for a fact, on good authority, that Beyond Good and Evil was supposed to be it. That was supposed to be it. But then they asked for a 5th season, and you notice that some of the animation changed, and the rest was history from that. But there was like, as far as comic books, it says there's been 2 times that I, major Spider-Man fan and minor X-Men fan, was buying all the X books monthly. Now these 2 times were Age of Apocalypse, and the whole year where Logan was headmaster, and the school was the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. I miss Headmaster Logan, and that shit was fun. Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Some people say Inferno, Muir Island. Mike Hint said that. Execution Song, Fatal Attractions. That was the name of that story with Magneto. Mind Wipe Clean, the Colossus story, like how he came across that. The Messiah Complex. That's the one right there. That's the one. Like, if you was not familiar with Cyclops game, You was going to be familiar with Cyclops game. You know what I'm saying? Because in X-Men and animated series, Cyclops was looked at as like this cop type character, right? Like Cyclops was looked at as a boring character. But in comics, Cyclops is not a boring character by any stretch of the imagination. Cyclops is one of the best leaders in X-Men history outside of Storm. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are on a mission with Cyclops, you are going to get played for your strengths. If you are going against a stronger opponent, he's going to divide his team up. They're going to get a dub. Either way it goes, they're going to get a dub. That is Cyclops to a T. And Storm, exact same way. They have different ways of leading, but if Storm is leading your team or if Cyclops leading your team, you're going to get a dub. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get a dub. Either way it goes. Wicked says Inferno, Age of Apocalypse, Onslaught. And Darth Nose says the Mutant Massacre. Very good. Notice there's a lot of Age of Apocalypse. A lot of people love Age of Apocalypse, from what I understand. Like that's what I got from the threads from I put out there. It said the Extinction Agenda, Hajj, the Shi'ar saga was some of the beginnings of Jim Lee's work. Mutant Massacre, Age of Apocalypse, House of X, Powers of X, Inferno, Executioner Song, Extinction Agenda, House of M. Yes. Finally, somebody said House of M. House of M is really, really, really good. Sins of Sinister, Messiah Complex, Ten of Swords. That is a choice. Ten of Swords. I'll tell you this. I started reading Ten of Swords, and I got disinterested. By proxy, it should have been something I would have been interested in. I don't know why I fell off of it. I just didn't like it. I don't know what it was. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like Ten of Swords. That just wasn't it. The Claremont Byrne Proteus art, Dark Phoenix, Days of Future Past, Uncanny X-Men number 205 by Claremont and Barry Windsor, where KD Power has to keep Wolverine safe from the Reavers. E for Extension by Grant Morrison, Uncanny X-Men Annual number 17 by Scott Lobdell and the late Jason Pearson. And if X-Men adjacent books are okay, Weapon X by BWS and the Demon Bear saga with the New Mutants are great. It says that I'm a sucker for any story that focuses on overly convoluted Summers family bullshit. I agree. That's some of the best stories out there. I would definitely say that. When it comes down to the Summers, they've been part of some of the best storylines. I cannot cap for that. So, God Loves Man Kills, Fatal Attractions, Age of Apocalypse, Astonishing X-Men, and I don't want to skip across Ricardo. Execution of the Song, Age of X, Dark Phoenix Saga, Nation X, Messiah Complex. He said that I literally just finished rereading God Loves Man Kills, and that's just some of them. But I will say this though, if I know you haven't read God Loves Man Kills in a long time, I know you haven't. But you got to read it. You got to reread it, man. And I'm going to say, it's going to hit you in the feels. It's going to hit you in the feels. God Loves Man Kills is going to hit you in the feels. Now, because it's sadly aged perfectly. Read between the lines. You know what I'm saying? It sadly aged perfectly. And, woo. A part of it is going to make you a little bit angry. And I feel like if you are reading a comic book and it makes you feel some sort of emotion, like it done its job, right? God Loves Man Kills is definitely one of those ones that make you feel some type of way, especially in the beginning, especially what Kitty Pryde said, especially what happened. And also, you get your just desserts at the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, the person that was discriminating against mutants or whatever the case may be, or had a insatiable hatred towards mutants, turns out to find out that your right-hand person is indeed a mutant, and they found out later. And so, which is kind of like, yeah, I'm glad you got your just desserts. Technically you got what you deserve, man. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't pay to hate. It doesn't pay to hate. It doesn't pay to hate. But I mean, the thing is, I feel like God Loves Man Kills is one of the best stories. House of X, Powers of X is one of the best stories. Jim Lee's run of X-Men, Execution Song and all that stuff, very good stuff. Chris Claremont, I stand on business when I say that. Chris Claremont is X-Men. He is X-Men. He saved X-Men. This is not Stan Lee's. Like, this is not Stan Lee's. Stan Lee probably came up with the concept, came up with the characters of X-Men, but it did not do well. It did not do well in the 60s during its first run. And that's no diss to Stan Lee. It's just facts. It did not sell well. It didn't do much of anything, and it was going to be a dead title. It was going to be a dead title until Chris Claremont grabbed that and ran with that shit. And I mean, like, ran with it. Like, some of these best stories that people put on Threads, people put on, like, comicbook.com, came from Chris. Got tongue-tied. Came from Chris Claremont. Straight up. Straight up and down on the reels. Came from Chris Claremont. So, with that, we got to talk about the most recent failure of X-Men. And what am I talking about? I am talking about Age of Revelation. First of all, let me just say, Age of Revelation could have easily been an adjectiveless X-Men title. This could have been an event just for them. You didn't have to drag a Kenny X-Men in the field. You didn't have to drag Wolverine in this. You didn't have to drag any other X title. You didn't have to do any of those things. But you did it, and you fucked yourself. That's what happened. That's what happened. Like this, the Age of Revelation could have easily been an adjectiveless X-Men run. Like, this could have been an event just for them. Because that's what it was centered around. That's really what it was about. Really. So it was not well received at all, man. You had like 9 separate titles for Age Revelation, and you expected people to go out there and buy all these damn titles to like get the 100% of every nook and cranny of what Age of Revelation is trying to convey. And that wasn't it. That wasn't it. In spite of Age of Revelation being what it was, I would definitely tell you that Gail Simone and Maria did what they were supposed to do. As far as telling their story, as far as Unbreakable X-Men and Rogue Storm, like the energy, I feel like it seamlessly translated from what they were originally writing all the way up to Age of Revelation and what they did, right? But Tom Brevoort, man, I got to give it to him. Tom Brevoort, he's the editor, and I feel like, no, he wasn't part of the Krakoa situation, but if you look at some remnants of it, I feel like Krakoa could have been left at what it was. And what he says. Oh, there we go. He says, my fanfic love triangle between Peter Parker and Kitty Pryde and Cindy Moon is better than Age of Revelation. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I think we could have write better than that. We could have wrote better than that, bro. We could have definitely wrote better than that. And here's some of the stuff right here. We got it on comicbook.com. It says that since editor Tom Brevoort took over the X office, there has been some great stories and series, but so much of it has been mediocre to a lot of fans. Aha! Especially when you look at how books like Wolverine have fallen down the sales charts. Brevoort has a chance to end the year with a bang with Age of Revelation, a story that basically aped classics like Age of Apocalypse and modern greats like Sins of Sinister. However, saying that the story made fans happy is a roll too far. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Number 5, most of the series did nothing for the main plot. It goes to my point. It says Age of Revelation tried to be Age of Apocalypse, a story that had numerous great installments that helped build the main plot. Astonishing X-Men, Amazing X-Men, Generation Next, Weapon X, Gambit, and the Externals all told disparate stories that build the main plot of the story. You could skip some of them, but you were missing something excellent and not getting the whole story. If you want to understand the main plot of Age of Revelation, you basically just have to read the books. Amazing X-Men Volume 2 and Book of Revelation. You can skip the vast majority of the event and lose nothing. That's a huge problem because Marvel put out a double-digit amount of tie-ins and none of them made a good argument for their existence. Like Age of Apocalypse was full of stories that you can reread endlessly, and Age of Revelation is full of filler you're better off skipping. Okay, if you are an anime watcher, I'm gonna put Bleach in this. You gave us the introduction of Ichigo Kurosaki. You gave us the when they went the Soul Society arc, and we can't wait to get to the next arc. What do you give us? Bounce. You give us the Bounce arc, the most horrible filler of all time. I would still say that to this day. Stand on that. The most horrible filler of all time. This is what this was. Age of Revelation was filler, and the like the adjacent titles, the other separate titles that was from Age of Revelation, they had dick to do with the main title. Most of them they had dick to do with it. Crazy work. Number 4, it says the main plot wasn't even that interesting. It says that the Age of Revelation is one of the least interesting X-Men stories of all time. Nothing about it is unique. And how many X-Men stories have you read about people trying to figure out a way to keep a bad future from happening? Well, how many times? How many times? I mean, how many? Like, I said a few weeks ago, I was like, man, can we put a pin in like the time travel part? Can we kind of like put a pin in that for like the next 5 years or so? Give us time to miss it. But either way it goes, it says the answer to that question is too many. In fact, unless you read Book of Revelation number 3 and Amazing X-Men Volume 2 number 3, there's really no main plot to make sense of it. It's just a bunch of alternate universe stories from a lame alternate universe. Add in how bad Revelation plan is. He wanted to make the planet and its inhabitants into a single organism, a la Ego, the living planet, which already freaking exists. And you get a story that just wasn't worth the effort of reading. Absolutely true. Now, number 3, I had some, reservations about this, but it says that none of it was compelling. So one of the strengths of Age of Apocalypse is how compelling each book was. You didn't need to read Factor X, X Universe, Excalibur, X-Man, or X-Men Chronicles, but if you did, you got compelling stories that fleshed out the world. However, Age of Revelation has nothing compelling. This is a story that should have been told in Jed MacKay's X-Men. What I just said, because of the rest of it doesn't matter to anything else. Each series is just kind of there, and there's no reason to like any of them. This isn't an interesting alternate world, and very few of the characters matter at all to the story. I honestly feel like Marvel figured that calling story Age of would be enough for fans to want to buy these books and forgot to make the whole thing interesting. Now, part of that is true. But not all of it. Go back to what I'm saying. Rogue Storm and Unbreakable X-Men were the 2 best stories in its entire run of Age of Revelation as its own standalone stories. I would definitely say that. I would down that hill. Unbreakable X-Men and Rogue Storm is right there. I didn't give a damn about nothing else. I really did. I gave other books a chance. Really, I really did. But those 2 titles were the best out of Age of Revelation, and it shouldn't be looped in with everything else. And that's nothing against the writers of the book, but I do feel like that they were at the mercy of Tom Brevoort. I feel like he ain't beating those charges because he's not beating those charges. I feel like they was at the mercy of the editor. And the fact that people were starting to get into their stride in writing their books, they had to put their books on halt for this event that just should have been Jed MacKay's X-Men, because that's really what it was centered around. And you could have made it even more interesting centering around them. And I agree with the writer of this article, because he said, like, you thought if you put Age of in front, it was going to just sell like hotcakes. It wasn't going to sell like hotcakes. It wasn't going to do that. Like, it wasn't going to do that. Like, you got to give us a good story to make this thing go. Like, yes, we are fans of X-Men. It was a point in time, like, even in the 90s, we had several X-Men titles. We had Generation X, we had X-Force, X-Factor, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men. We had all those X-Men titles. But I will tell you, all those titles are actually pretty good. But 2 of them, again, Rogue Storm, Unbreakable X-Men, definitely the 2 best titles, like, in Age of Revelation. Straight up and down. So also it says Revelation isn't a good villain. So it says many fans question why Doug Ramsey was made into Apocalypse era Revelation, and they were right to do so. Doug is an amazing character with all kinds of potential for creators to tell great stories about him, his husband, Warlock, and his wife, Bay, the Blood Moon. Yes, yes, he and Warlock aren't married, but they might as well be. Instead of that, they tried to make him a generic Dark Lord mastermind, which doesn't fit him at all. Reading the books that featured him show a character who has both really bad at being a villain and also somehow was a master manipulator who got everyone where he wanted them for the dumbest plan I've seen in the X-Men comic in years. Sometimes you can take a bad idea like turning Doug into an Apocalypse wannabe and make it good. Age of Revelation was never able to do that. He's not scary. His plan is bad, and he just doesn't fit the role that was set out for him. I remember being first introduced to him, especially in the Krakoa age. Let me get this. Radioactive Spider-Man is horrible by fanfic character. Benjamin is a half mutant and half spider totem. Yeah, agreed. And it says that. So when I was introduced to Doug, he was actually an okay character, man. I don't see him as this evil mastermind, like this evil overlord type of character. And especially with his unique ability to like understand every language and create a language or something, like, you know, he has a unique ability, and I feel like you could really dig deep with his character and flesh out his character even more. You could center it around or whatever the case may be, because I am covering X-Men number 23. That's going to come out very soon, so just be patient on that one. But yeah, Revelation wasn't really a good villain. He wasn't really a good villain straight out. You know, I mean, what he did to Wolverine was diabolical work. It was diabolical work. But it says, number one, the ending was bad. It says X-Men Omega number 1 is one of the best endings in comics. It was infinitely rereadable. I read daily back in 95 and never got tired of it. An exciting, action-packed, shocking ending to an amazing story. Age of Revelation ending isn't worth of watching X-Men Omega's number 1's jockstrap. Damn. It's crazy work. It's an X-Men Age of Revelation finale number 1 is a bad ending. There's nothing exciting about it except possibly the end reveal, which you only care about if you read Jed MacKay's X-Men. And even though I wouldn't call it predictable, the fact that the ending is something of a surprise isn't a good thing. It's an action-packed, but it's hard to care. I might not have to like the story, but I wanted this ending to be great. Even if the rest of it was bad. If the ending was good, it would all have been worthwhile. However, instead of sticking the landing, the book blundered towards an ending that very few fans actually enjoyed. I mean, it was at a point where people was anticipating the ending and ready to move on to the next thing. I was one of those people. I was ready to go to Shadows of Tomorrow. Hopefully, things like get better, with that. So now, obviously, coming into X-Men number 2 to 3, just give you a little bit of synopsis to that. That Cyclops from the future injected his consciousness into the current Cyclops in this current timeline, and immediately he attacks Doug. And he's like, for you joining the X-Men was a problem from the start. I got to take you out. There's no other way. I got to take you out. I got to kill you. And he was talking to Beast, but he wasn't really talking to the Beast that he was talking to in this separate timeline. He was talking to the Beast in a separate timeline, basically. And that Beast is the one that I don't want to be next to. The one that's experiment on people. That Beast, that's the one he was talking to. And that Beast didn't translate over to the current timeline. So nobody understands what he got going on and why he want to kill Doug. And they're like, oh, well, we can prevent this from happening. Like, no, there's no other way to do this. I got to take you out. Now, I need this to end. I need this to end because this gives me Moira McTaggart vibes, because especially what happened with House of X and Powers of X was really good. Really good. Like there's no other way. I feel like Moira will figure out a way to stop this from actually happening. You know what I mean? We are in a new age of X-Men, yes. But hopefully we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, I will say this, though. X-Men number 23, this is a bold statement. I love the artwork. I love the artwork of X-Men number 23. I feel like Wolverine issue number 14, X-Men issue number 23 is better than the entire Age of Revelation main storyline. I said it. I feel like anything is better than that. I feel like anything is better than that. It's tragic. It is tragic. It is tragic. But I feel like one of the problems is you got to give writers time to cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be so impatient to put stuff out, or don't be so impatient to the point where you want to rush an ending because you want to move on to the next thing. Like, you look at your sales. Like, you look at how much people love the story. Also, it would not hurt to switch out writers. Give someone else time to go on a run. Because I feel like Jed McKay's been out here for a hot little minute. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he's been out here a hot little minute. Jonathan Hickman out here for a hot little minute. You know what I'm saying? So give other people time to cook, man. Like, give other writers a shot at writing an X-Men title, and maybe you will be surprised at what you get. Maybe you'll be surprised at what you get. Like, seriously, we can't just keep going back to the well of the same writers, like, over and over and over again, and thinking, you know what? This is a good idea. This is a good idea. Let's have this person run because of how well they've done this whole entire time. Nah, I say give people time to write. Also, give other writers a shot at writing these X-Men titles. You pleasantly surprised. Put it like this. You gave Chris Claremont time, and he cooked. He flambéed. He barbecued out here with these X-Men stories. You gave Grant Morrison time. He cooked. Gave Jonathan Hickman some time, you know, with Krakoa age and stuff like that. It cooked until it wasn't. But introduce new writers. People that have been cooking out here in the independent space. I'm a strong proponent of Sanford Greene writing the X-Men title, or Stephanie Williams writing the X-Men title, or hell, even Gail Simone, even though she's writing Uncanny X-Men, give her the reins to write adjective-less X-Men too. Like, hey, Eva L. Ewing, give it to him. Maria, matter of fact, look at what Maria's done with Storm. Like, Storm to me has been the best X-Men title, like, that's been out. You know what I'm saying? Like, Storm as a solo run, absolutely great. Absolutely great. Like Bravo stuff, right? Gail Simone and Maria has been cooking. Easily been cooking. Even though, like, Cyclops is one of my favorite, like, mutants, you know, and that's the reason why I keep coming back to adjective-less X-Men, because the story is good. But also, what Magneto got going on? What does he have going on? Because the one thing I didn't know about Age of Revelation is that Magneto was standing up, and he was using his mutant abilities. So, is this disease he has, this a side effect for being revived or brought back to life? Is this a side effect, or is this just bullshit? Like, what exactly is going on? Cyclops even point that out. Like, yo, why are you in the chair? Why you can't get up? I'm gonna leave that alone. Because I'm gonna point that out whenever I drop the new X-Men recording. But either way it goes, yeah. So Age of Revelation didn't stick the landing. 1. 2, it should have been in Jed McKay's run of X-Men. It should have been its standalone title. Leave everybody else alone. Leave them to their devices. Let them cook. That was honestly a very grave mistake. That is a grave mistake. Like, easily. Now, as far as Marvel is concerned, I know they got Ultimate Endgame. I have yet to read Ultimate Endgame. Number 1. I know number 2 is coming out pretty soon. So we're gonna work with that. So we'll see how that goes. But thank God, Age of Revelation is over. You know what I'm saying? Thank God Age of Revelation is over and done with. I am so glad that it's over. Hopefully Shadows of Tomorrow will put it out there. But just like I told you, go ahead and check out my most recent coverage of Wolverine issue number 14 featuring Silver Sable. Definitely going to be covering that. If anything, that particular story with Wolverine and Silver Sable, because Silver Sable don't get featured enough, in my opinion. I know the last time she made an appearance, excuse me, was 2024, where she was a symbiote. It was like the Venom War kind of situation. So we'll see how this goes, man. Hopefully this gains some traction and Wolverine get some sales out of this, man. I think, but I feel like somewhat though, you still giving us several X titles out of Shadows of Tomorrow, right? I'm going to read Cyclops solo run because I'm a fan. I'm gonna read that, right? Magic and Colossus, I'm gonna read that. Inglorious X-Force, okay. So with most recent X-Force, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say that that title got canceled, but I think this one has a chance to actually do something because it has Cable in it. Because it's like, what is X-Force without Cable? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is X-Force without Cable? So, I think Inglorious X-Force gonna have a chance. It's gonna have a chance. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get Inglorious X-Force. I did say at the end of the year that I'm gonna cover more Marvel titles, right? Because DC is dominated 2025 as far as sales are concerned. It has, along with indie titles. But I'm gonna cover more Marvel stuff, especially more X titles. So Inglorious X-Force is on there. At least cover number one. If I dig Inglorious X-Force number one, I'm gonna continue to cover it. Cyclops. If Cyclops number one is good, I'm gonna cover the rest of the run of that. So be on the lookout for that. I'm gonna definitely see what's going on with adjectiveless X-Men. You see how it goes. Now, like I said earlier about Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse is right here. That is Age of Apocalypse. And I want to say you can read that. You can read Age of Apocalypse on Marvel Unlimited, on Marvel Unlimited app and Comixology. And you can actually get the whole entire Age of Apocalypse like omnibus. I think you can get that physical. So I want to get this, and I want to get X-Men Blue and Gold in my library ASAP. I don't know how much that's going to be. Okay, I don't know how much that's going to be, but I need that. I need that in my life. Now, it does say like the year 1994 would be not underselling anything to say this high point is soaring era of Marvel's merry band of mutants. The X-Men are still riding the wave off the record-setting sales of 1991's X-Men number one by industry superstars Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. And at this point, there are no fewer than 7 monthly titles and quarterly book devoted to new stories in the X universe. Now, it says it's the sort of franchise success of which publisher dreams are made. So more than a little bit of baffling when Marvel reveals its plans to cancel all of its monthly X titles and replace them with the game-changing storyline known as Age of Apocalypse. Now, it's a fitting name, given the shock so many X fans are feeling in the wake of the big announcement, but as we know now, it all worked out, to say the least. The story stretched over the course of a 4-month event, tracked how removal of Professor Xavier will lead to a dark dystopia ruled by the X-villain Apocalypse. Grim stuff, but a stroke of brilliance in hindsight. Not that it was any one person's grand idea at Marvel. It takes a team to make something that big happen. So it was Ben Rabb, Fabian DiCiesa, Scott Lobdell, DCA, and obviously there was an interview between those two. But yeah, Age of Apocalypse was some good shit. It was some good shit. I'm just, whoo, that was some good shit. That was some good shit. I mean, if you want to reread Age of Apocalypse, go back and reread Age of Apocalypse, man. If you want to go back to some real good X-Men stories, man, it doesn't really hurt to go back to the well and just read some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Stay away from the 1964 original run of X-Men. That ain't good. That ain't good. That Stan Lee written one ain't good. I'm sorry. Stan Lee did some phenomenal things in Marvel. But this is Chris Claremont says, man. That's all. That is claim to fame. So, this thing, last thing we're going to talk about. Remember what I told y'all? That we're going to highlight independent comics, right? And we're going to do it on this show. We're going to do it on Saturday Morning Comics because these are some indie comics that you should be reading. And very good stuff. Very, very good stuff. And I'm going to pull this up. And I read several independent comics out here. And let me pull this up right here. So, The independent comic of the week, ladies and gentlemen, is by Stephanie Williams, good friend of the channel. She's done some very good work, and it is called Temporal. It is called Temporal. So, I know you noticed the DeLorean, right? And that's not the centerpiece of the series, but the story revolves around Savannah and Marcus. Savannah and Marcus are time thieves, right? They go back in time, they steal certain things that doesn't really affect the overarching timeline, but they are very good at what they do, okay? But they are retired, and you know, they got a life. You know, obviously when they was first introduced, they weren't married here, but eventually they did get married. They did have a kid, and they did have a son, and their son's birthday came up, and obviously Savannah gave him a replica of a old game system, a Minimax. Now, the Minimax looks suspiciously like a Sega Genesis. You know what I'm saying? And she knows ball. Stephanie knows ball. That's all I'm gonna tell you right there. But yeah, so she gave him a replica because obviously in the current timeline, it's no longer is being manufactured, right? And he's not an ungrateful kid. He's not an ungrateful kid. He still say thank you so much for this, and you know he said it with his teeth gritting. But as a mom, right? You know. She's going to understand what his likes and dislikes are and knows when her son is disappointed. So I think just by looking into this, it's less about time travel and it's more about a mother's love, a parent's love to please their children and not to be a disappointment to your kids on things that they want. And because you work hard for things for your kid to have an easier life, right? You know, that's the whole premise of being a parent, right? You know, how you grew up, you want to make it easier for your next generation, and it's supposed to translate over along and along and along and along. That's how it's supposed to go, right? My upbringing hasn't been like rough like that, but sort of. But still yet, though, you want to make it easier for your kids. So the thing is, what Savannah does, because her and Marcus got out of the game of being time thieves, and it was very difficult to get out of the game of being time thieves, but for the love of her son, to make sure her son has a spectacular birthday and make sure he gets what he needs, she goes on one last run back in time to get an actual Minimax, to get an actual one. And yes, she had to pull some strings to get it. She didn't tell Marcus about it. She didn't tell anybody about it. So she goes back and does her thing, and she actually is successful in doing so. Yes, she did give her son the Minimax at the dinner table or whatever. And Marcus was like, hey, you know, I sent you a text message. You didn't get it. And she was like, you know, I was tied up. I was doing some other things. And you get to see the relationship between those two. And it's some of it is nonverbal, and that's how in sync they are with each other. So I think Marcus has an idea that she went on this run to get this, right? But at the same time, you think everything is all squeaky clean. You think everything is cool because it's two conflicts here in Temporal. One, you know, she's trying to, you know, make sure her son is satisfied. That's one thing. The other part of it is that there's an itch that she needs to distract. She missed the thrill of being a time thief. She missed that thrill. Marcus, so far, has been cool with it. Savannah, not so much, because Savannah is known to be the better of the two. She's known to be the best, if not one of the best. You know what I'm saying? She's one or the other, right? So if people know that you did this job for your kid, obviously, okay, we gonna need you for another job and another job. So now it's a slippery slope now. Now it's a deeper hole. That's where the story goes. That is where the story goes. And there's a lot of things that I missed out. Well, I say missed out on that I purposely missed out that I want you guys to go out here and read it. Now, Temporal is available on Global Comics as digital. You can actually get it, and you can go to your LCS and actually get Temporal too as well. Issue number 3 is out. right now. So right now we had 3 issues. So you definitely want to check that out. Stephanie Williams has done some good writing, man. There's a lot of nuances here within this book that just, parenting and missing the thrill, like not losing yourself and stuff like that. There's a lot of lessons within these 3 issues that is like very good writing. Very good writing. Very good writing, man. I highly encourage you that. So this is the highlight of the week is Temporal by Stephanie Williams, man. The artwork is really good. Really, really good. Definitely want to check that out. And it's from Mad Cave. Stephanie Williams, Asia Fullmore, DJ Davis, and Becca Carey. Really good book, man. I can't speak enough on it. Especially if you are a fan of time travel. Especially like Back to the Future is one of my favorite franchises. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's a movie that I don't really eat popcorn like that, but that's a movie where it will make me go out there and just make a bucket of popcorn and just eat and just watch it. You know what I'm saying? And I wish there was a Fathom event that I could just go to the movie theater and just watch Back to the Future on the big screen like it was meant to be watched. Like it's certain movies, you know what I'm saying, that is meant to be watched on the big screen. You know what I'm saying? So Temporal, and I know this by design. You know what I'm saying? I know this is like stupendous marketing because if you see that DeLorean and you see black woman step out and like wear this cool ass outfit, you was like, yo, I'm invested because obviously this is about time travel, right? And like I said, time travel is part of the plot device of it all, but at the same time though, this book is good. This is a really good book. And look, this is not the only book that she's writing, though. That's the thing. This is not the only book that she's writing. If I'm not mistaken, she's going to be writing Wonder Woman because Tom King is taking a little bit of a break. She's doing that because if you are familiar with Nubia, Wonder Woman's sister, that's Stephanie Williams. She wrote that. That's her. Also, when you talk about Roots of Madness, right? Roots of Madness, which I'm going to be covering that. Yeah, Roots of Madness is right here, y'all. This is her too, by Ignition Press. Stephanie was in her bag. You get what I'm saying? Stephanie is in her bag. She's doing work out here. She's doing the Lord's work. So yes, Temporal on Global Comics. If you don't have the Global Comics app, go ahead and download that app and subscribe. That way you can read all these wonderful independent comics. You can read that. Go to your local comic book store and see if Temporal is available, if it's not sold out already. But go ahead and check that out. Go to your local comic book store and see if you can get Temporal. Any comics, if you got 1, 2, or 3, go ahead and pick them up. You can actually get the physical copies too. Just go to Ignition Press and put an order in. That's all you got to do. Man, I think we covered a good bit of stuff today. Man. Appreciate you guys for hanging out and supporting the channel. And yes, I'm definitely going to be covering more independent comics, especially on this show, especially on Saturday Morning Comics. I'm still working on the movie film side of things because I'm also a film geek as well. And I think I got a perfect person to actually have on the show on a frequent level, but we know that's behind the scenes. We got to discuss that. So it may go through it may not. We'll see how it goes. We'll definitely see how it goes, man. You already know what to do, y'all. Hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell. But make sure in that notification bell, there's a little drop down box, right? There's a little drop down box. Make sure you select all. Okay. And yes, the Orange Phoenix magazine will be returning on Patreon and Amazon. It will be returning. And I hope you guys have a awesome weekend. And be safe out there. I know here in the South, it's a beautiful day outside. And I'm going to go out here and enjoy it. So until next time, y'all. Peace.